A little say good day to you this day of your time. How are you all? All right. Once again, we thank each and every one of you and all of you together collectively for the co-creation of this interaction and the allowance of this transmission at this time. Each and every time you co-create with us these interactions, you give us the gift of experiencing through each and every one of you another facet of creation. We thank you for that gift. Let us begin this transmission at this time with the title, 2027, the Fulcrum of Contact. Now, we have previously in these transmissions discussed the idea of a general probability for a window for the beginning of open contact between your civilization and other civilizations more openly on your planet. This window in general has been said to be between your years of 2025 and 2033, give or take a year or two on either side. But the idea now is that things are beginning to crystallize a little bit more, and we can, at this point, in scanning the probabilities, pinpoint the year 2027 specifically as an acceleration toward the idea, the beginning of contact in a variety of ways, a little bit more than the idea of just delivering information to you. It will begin slowly, still. We're not saying that in 2027 all the ships are going to land. That's not what we're saying. So please do not misinterpret this idea. There is still a window. It will begin very strongly in 2027, and here is the explanation of why. Many of you are already familiar in your history with the idea of a seminal event regarding UFO contact that happened in your year of 1947, what you call the Roswell incident, where you really first began to realize that you are not alone in the universe through the crash of a UFO in the desert near your Roswell and Corona in New Mexico. From that point forward began a cycle. Once you had become aware as a society that other beings other than yourself exist on other planets and have the capacity to reach your world with their technology, many different things began to change within your collective consciousness, within your psyche, your awareness. And that began a 40-year cycle. Now, the 40-year cycle has been prevalent in your society for many thousands of years. The idea is that 40 years is generally, in your reality, the time it takes for a complete transformation of a society into a completely new point of view. You see examples of the idea of people changing over 40-year cycles throughout much of your literature if you look for it. The idea, therefore, is that from 1947 to 1987 was the first 40-year cycle when you became aware of the idea of other life in the universe. And in 1987, many of you started to realize that there was another culmination cycle going on then, and you called it the harmonic convergence. And at that time, we began to bring through more information about what's going on out in the universe and how different kinds of societies relate to your world, specifically about the idea of the beings you call the Greys, and how we first began to explain the real legacy, the real history of what that society was all about, being that they were originally humans on a version of Earth in a parallel reality that did not necessarily take care of their world, that destroyed their version of Earth through their technological means and their lack of spiritual context, and mutated themselves eventually in order to survive into the beings you now know as the Greys. We told you this story and helped you understand that the reason that they came from their reality to yours and many other versions of Earth was to access viable human DNA since they were no longer able to reproduce, And with that DNA and their technology, create a race of hybrid beings that would continue their culture so they would not die out. As we have explained many times, of course, we are one of those hybrid civilizations. And Earth, in a sense, in its evolution, is becoming another hybrid civilization. But the idea being from that point forward in 1987, when you began to realize what the larger story was and how you're connected to it, and how the information that we share with you is not only for the purpose of continuing the Gray's original culture from the parallel Earth, but also to help your world not necessarily go down the same path of destruction, because you had many similar traits and still have many similar traits to what it is that brought about the destruction of their version of Earth in their reality. But by disseminating and absorbing this information into your society, you have the option they didn't have. You have the option to take a different path. You have the option to create a reality that you prefer. You have the option to create positive realities of peace. So the idea here then is we are now nearing the end of that next 40-year cycle in 9 of your years in 2027. And that's why 2027 is now the focal point when the next 40 years, the next phase of contact can begin. It will accelerate at that point in a variety of unexpected ways. There will be more sightings, there will be more synchronicity, there will be here and there on your planet individual and isolated contacts happening. Now, as we have explained, the hybrid races that exist will not necessarily be the first beings that you interact with. There are others that you will interact with that in many ways are actually a little bit more like you and a little bit closer in relation to your world, and therefore interaction with beings more like yourselves will alleviate some of the ideas of panic that some people on your planet may feel in interacting with alien species, allowing you the opportunity to get used to the idea that you can have neighbors from the stars. And as soon as that becomes something that you are far more familiar with, then other races that are a little less like you can begin to introduce themselves in a constructive and peaceful manner that does nothing to disrupt the society that you have chosen to create for yourselves. But it will begin in earnest. The next phase will begin in 2027 and accelerate from there all the way up, as we said, till about 2033. Between 2033 and 2040, as we read the energy as it exists now, if nothing changes, the highest probability is that between those years, 2033, 2040, you will experience complete open contact on your planet. And during that time, also, the children that were created from the extraction of the DNA, the hybrid children, will begin to arrive on Earth to live in certain enclaves, in certain secluded areas, safe areas on your planet again, where they can live as a group, where they can acclimate to living in your society, and you can acclimate to their society, and you can begin to blend and harmonize and welcome into your reality, welcome them into your world, and begin to really develop a real strong relationship with those children, to begin to truly understand your place in the stars, your very honored place in the galactic family. And through those years, 2033 to 2040, you will develop much, much more understanding of all the interrelationships that have occurred and can occur between your world and other beings from the stars. From that point forward, again, as we read the energy now, up till about the year 2050, all of that acclimatization will take place so that somewhere around the year 2050, you can actually enter into membership, if you wish, with the idea of the Interstellar Alliance and truly begin in earnest your education of the galaxy and a true understanding and connection of creation and existence that will spread you to the stars to explore, to discover more of yourself, and allow you to truly, from that point forward, develop a true harmony and a true paradise on your planet. So 2027 will be the kickoff point for that, a very strong one, and you will see a lot of different things happening in that year. It will be a very exciting time. Now, before that time, we give you a little bit of a preview coming up into your next year of 2019, which we are going to label the crossing of the threshold. You will find 2019 will have what you would call a lot of things breaking up, ups and downs, scattering, more splitting into different parallel ideas, more dichotomy, more polarization, but again, the continuation of getting everything out on the table so you can decide what kind of a reality you truly wish to have. And it will lead up to your year of 2020, which is a very important point for a variety of reasons we will get into in more detail later. But the idea is you can understand it symbolically as not only the idea of 2020 vision, seeing very clearly now where you are heading, but also the way you use it in your reality of 2020 hindsight, where you can really look back, see where you've come from much more clearly to make a very clear decision in that year of where it is you would prefer to go and really begin to live in the reality you prefer, regardless of what may be going on with other people's choices, regardless of what other choices they may make to experience different kinds of reality than you may feel vibrationally compatible with. Regardless of that, the splitting into the different parallel realities and the different paths that can lead you into the reality you prefer will truly be happening in 2020, where you will have a much clearer understanding and a much clearer vision of where you've come from, why you've come that way, and where you can go from there. And that will help in that period leading up to 2027. That will help crystallize it for you and make sure that you are precisely, exactly, synchronistically where you need to be that serves you best in 2027, so that you may experience the fruits of all you have learned in the beginning of the point of contact with other worlds. So we thank you for working with us in this way. It is absolutely our passion to be able to further contact with your civilization among the other civilizations that we have contacted. It gives us great joy to be able to know that it is possible to interact with your world in this way, and invite you into the family so that you can begin your process of moving at whatever pace is comfortable for you from the idea of Homo sapien to Homo galacticus. So, we will talk more about this in more detail as the years progress, as it begins to unfold. We will point out certain synchronicities that it would be wise to pay attention to so you can add them to your bag of knowledge and your ability to gain more insight and outer sight as to what's going on around you more clearly. And taking into account what we discussed last night of your time, knowing that you are all time travelers in a sense, determining which parallel reality paths you are taking by following your joy, by acting on your passion to the best you can, dropping all the insistence on what you think is supposed to happen and letting reality show you, letting creation show you the gifts that it has for you, and responding to them in a positive way will drive you forward and allow you to experience the great acceleration that we're talking about that will come to a head in 2027. So then, in return at this time for the gift that you have given us in allowing us to experience all of you in this way and form a link and a bridge to your society with ours, I ask in return, how may we now be of service to you? Please begin with your questions and dialogues if you wish.